Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Today I'd like to talk about an issue that keeps coming up from time to time in the comments, and that is this idea that somehow mixed martial arts and traditional martial arts are supposed to be diametrically opposed to each other. And this is really, really weird to me, because the thing is, most mixed martial artists are actually experts in traditional martial arts, believe it or not. I think these comments are coming from people who got bullied by some kid at school who liked watching UFC and said, I train UFC or something like that. And yeah, I'm just imagining this scenario in my mind because people who actually train for real don't get caught up in this weird idea that MMA is better than TMA. That's stupid, man. That's just stupid. And if that's what you're getting out of my channel, tell me why. Oh, man. What's that? It's a traditional martial arts black belt. Ah, I'm supposed to be diametrically opposed to this because I put on some of these and got in a cage. Oh no. Ah, it's attacking me. Get off. Get off. Ah. Take that and that and that, you nasty traditional martial arts black belt. Look, I just beat a black belt. Woohoo. Man, traditional martial arts, man. I practiced many traditional martial arts over the years, including Tai Chi Chuan and Tai Chi Jin, the sword style. Hey, check this one out. For all you video game nerds out there, this is the same sword model that the Chinese officer sword in Fallout 3 was modeled after. Check that out. Yeah, I'm a martial arts nerd. I've been practicing martial arts for a very, very long time, for decades. Oh, what's this? Oh, it's a traditional martial arts uniform. Ah! Here's the thing. MMA fighters, more often than not, are experts in traditional martial arts. And the fact that they actually get in a cage and put these on and put their technique to the test for real against live resisting opponents who are trying to hurt them, you know what? How can you not respect that? So, on another note, I've had a bunch of pretty pedantic comments on some of my videos about testing out women's self-defense, saying something like, oh, this is just negativity. You must respect all styles. And the thing is, these aren't styles in question. These are bad techniques. I'm going to share an experience I had. So that first women's self-defense tryout video that I made, it's titled MMA Fighters Try Out Women's Self-Defense. It was made by Marie Claire, their online magazine company. And their spokesperson was a certain personal trainer named Leena Marti. She's a personal trainer in New York, I believe, and she made this video a number of years ago, and it was bad. And so we made this video where we tried out these techniques, and most of them didn't work very well when our training partners didn't cooperate and offered mild resistance. And again, a lot of people loved it, but a lot of people said, no, you're being mean. But here's the thing. I got curious. What happened to Leena Marti? What is she up to these days? So I started looking her up on the internet, started doing some cyber stalking, and I found out something really interesting, which is she is fully aware of the backlash on that video. She got a ton of feedback on that saying, hey, this is no good. And she did something about it. Remember at the end of that video where I said, if you want to learn how to fight, go take a fighting class and learn how to fight, instead of relying on stupid magic tricks that you learn off of an internet video? Well, guess what? She did that. She signed up for a martial arts class, a real one. And yeah, I couldn't be happier about that. Couldn't be more proud of her. Leena Marti, if you were watching, congratulations for getting out there and training. The thing I tell people every single time I make one of these videos, get out there and train. And she did it. And yeah, she recognized her mistake, she humbled herself, and she did something about it to fix the problem. And that is awesome. That is so awesome. So Leena Marti, Coach Lee, as she goes by on the web, my hat goes off to you. I'm not wearing my hat right now, but I guess it's off, so my hat goes off to you, my friend. Yeah, way to lead by example. And another thing that's really cool about Coach Lee, Leena Marti, is that in a very real way, she is addressing the biggest problem, and that is not bad guys jumping out of the shadows, attacking and hurting people, because that, statistically speaking, barely ever happens. But if you look at her work, what does she do? She helps people get fit. She helps people lose weight. She helps people get up and move. Because what is the #1 cause of death among humans? Heart disease. What is the #1 preventative measure of heart disease? Get up and move and exercise and become more physically fit. So that's what she does. This woman is saving lives, fixing her mistakes, being a great example. So again, I salute you, Coach Lee. So back to the traditional martial arts thing. Got some swords and stuff here. I live in China. I live in the People's Republic of China. I have lived here for over a decade. And I've had a lot of experiences here with Chinese Kung Fu. And a lot of those experiences have shattered previous misconceptions about all these martial arts. I got this strange comment from somebody with a screen name made out of unreadable flowery wingdings who said something along the lines of that they were going to quit martial arts because, and I'm going to read this, because the fun I could have had from this sport has been ruined by the attitudes that they, talking about traditional martial arts and mixed martial arts, have toward each other. So now I don't know what to think. And the best option is to leave this toxic community behind because sadly everybody hates each other. And then this person goes on to say something about a certain video that I critiqued, calling it traditional martial arts, when what was actually shown on the screen was a stupid schoolyard bully headlock. That's not traditional martial arts. If you have trained at all, you should know. That is not traditional martial arts. That's not Kung Fu. That's not Wing Chun. I'm not going to mention the name of this guy because every time I do, the dude picks on poor Jim, his assistant. Oh man, last time I made a video about this man who shall not be named, poor Jim got throttled quite a bit. Poor Jim. Jim, my heart goes out to you, man. Whoops, I just name dropped Jim. Sorry, Jim. Run and hide while you still can. So, why are there those people who want to create a division, who want to create this rift between those that only practice a traditional martial art, generally just one, and those who also fight in the cage? Well, the big thing is money for profit. People who run a dojo in a traditional martial art, they get very intimidated by the fact that there are these people over here whose very existence exposes them. Because as Bruce Lee and Martha Graham both taught, and Martha Graham taught this first, by the way, decades previously, movement doesn't lie. Your movement will betray you if your actions are false. Movement doesn't lie. So, if I put on a costume and I pretend and I play make-believe and say, I am a martial artist, and I don't actually know martial arts, and I don't know how to fight, or I don't know how to do the forms right, or whatever the martial art consists of, that's called a lie. And over here in the other corner, live competition, combat sports, exposes that lie. Because reality looks very different from the lie. And so, whether we do it intentionally or not, when we fight for real, when we practice a live art, a live combat sport for real, something magical happens. We expose the lies, we expose the frauds. And the frauds and the liars, they hate it. They hate it, they can't stand it, and they try to shut it down. And since they don't have the power to shut it down themselves, what do? They try to divide the populace, us and them. This is an ancient form of controlling a large population. See, when you have a group of people larger than 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, any bigger than 12, it's very difficult to control that population through simply being a charismatic person. And a lot of traditional martial arts cults, I'm saying cults specifically, because man, there are martial arts cults, there are religious cults, there are cults of personality, all kinds of cults out there that attract people. And the way they generally keep them when the group is small is through charisma. But when it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, what do? Oh man, the means that governments have used to control populations are fascinating. If you study political science, oh man, that is a fascinating subject. Politics, my friends, according to Professor William Ruger, anyway, interesting guy, is the legitimate use of violence. Let me repeat that. Politics is the legitimate use of violence. What makes it legitimate, though? What makes violence legitimate is either how many people support the act or how many people stand idly by and do nothing. That's what legitimizes it. It's not a question of morality of, is the violence right or wrong? It's, do we let it happen or not? So we have these martial arts cult leaders. You can find a martial art cult leader in any style. You can find MMA camps with charismatic cult leaders. You can find Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu camps. In fact, you do find a lot of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu camps out there with charismatic cult leaders. Anytime I hear somebody say, our gym is like a family, we're like a family, oh man, that bugs me. I hate that. That tells me you don't know what a family is. I love my students. I like those guys. I enjoy hanging out with them, talking to them. There is camaraderie among us. There's a certain, almost like a brotherhood, fraternity, if you will. But they're not my family. And for those indoctrinated in this cult-like thinking of your gym should be your family, I'm sorry to say, but you have lost sight of what a family is. Or perhaps you were unfortunate to never know. I grew up without a father. And that kind of sucked, I guess. And that shaped my life at an early age in some fairly negative ways, I would say. And a lot of kids who grew up in my position without that father figure tend to look outward for another father figure, or the polar opposite, eschew father figures entirely and grow a disdain for the very idea of it. I've had a few people in the comments of my videos say, Ramsey, I wish you were my dad. And, you know, I appreciate the sentiment, but at the same time, that makes me sad to hear. It makes me think, man, I hope your circumstances were not like mine. When I was 19 years old, I had a talk with my father. I didn't see him very much growing up. A couple of times a year he would come to visit. My parents split up when I was 2 years old. And he said, Ramsey, let's go for a walk. So we went on a walk and didn't say anything for quite a while. I didn't really understand how to talk to my father. In fact, I'm still not sure if I do, because we don't speak much. And he said, you probably think that I've been a pretty crappy dad all these years. But I'm going to tell you something, my dad was worse. And then he told me some things about how he had it growing up, how his father was a very rough man who was a bit of an abusive alcoholic. And did some things that I don't feel like repeating in this video. But he told this very sobering story about his childhood and how it was rough and how basically he had it worse. And I thought, man, how am I supposed to respond to that? Thanks, Dad, for not spending all the money on booze and beating me when you got drunk. I still don't know how to respond to that, but I guess I understand where that sentiment is coming from. That type of deflection where you recognize there's something wrong with the situation, but instead of trying to make it right, we try to justify it by comparing it with something worse. Well, at least I didn't do this. I've got my own kids now, 2 of them. They're 3 and 6. Beautiful little girls. I love them so much. And there is an age where a child will love you no matter what. And I remember that age. I remember looking out the window when I was little, after my father left, looking out the window for hours, waiting for him to come home, longing, thinking, I want my daddy to come home. And I would ask my mother, I asked her one day, when is Daddy coming home? Her response very gruffly and angrily, because she'd just gone through a pretty rough divorce, was, never! My mother was a pretty rough, gruff British woman. And that broke my heart into pieces. At that moment, I went from that stage where a child will love their father unconditionally, no matter what, to something else. To trying to let go of that. It's hard to let go of that love that was never really merited in the first place, but you gave it freely. It's painful when that dies. When reality sinks in. When reality sinks in, no, he's not coming home. Let me bring this home, back to martial arts. When we are wrong about something, it is painful. When we have that realization. When we look out the window through the lens of our childhood eyes, thinking about our childhood heroes in the movies, Bruce Lee, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Chuck Norris, all these action heroes who showed us that kung fu and karate and all this was the answer to our problems. It was the answer to the bully that picked on us at school. And now there are bullies at school who say, I train UFC. So the kids today, who perhaps idolize Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris and Van Damme and belts and uniforms or whatever the case is, they hate that. Thanks for watching. Get out there and train.